Hello guys, this is my first video tutorial on C++ programming. So let's walk on this journey to learn C++ language from beginning to end. I promise I'll cover every basic details from the beginning. That's because this is 2019 and we all know how important it is to get a job in software developer field, and C++ is the building block of that software developing. So I think we should all start to learn this language because this is so powerful and so efficient language, and this is so easy to learn, and we can do magic with this language. If you know this language better, then believe me, any other language like Android, Java, JS, they will be like a small cup of cake for you. That's because if you know the basic concepts of this language, you will get to know many other things of the Java or any other language, and you will get to know that thing quite efficiently. So let's start. So the first question that arises to us is, what is C++ language? We are here to learn this language. So what basically is C++ language? It is a high-level object-oriented programming language that helps programmers write portable and efficient code. Here, we get to know two things: that C++ language is a high-level language and also object-oriented programming language. So what that means? We'll get to know these things later, but first focus on these two things like portable and efficient code. Efficient code means C++ is quite easy to write and easy to understand. So because of that, it generates an efficient code that is easy to execute. And portable means easy portability. It is independent of the environment on which it is created. So because of that, it is easily portable. It is known as C with class. That's because it inherits the property of C language. It do have some other aspects, like its basis is on object-oriented programming. So because of that, it inherits the property of C as well as it inherits the property of object-oriented programming. So because of that, it is also known as superset of C language. So the next thing is that, what is high-level language? It is any programming language that enables development of a program in a much more user-friendly programming context and is generally independent of computers' hardware architecture. So what that means? It means it is closer to human. We can easily learn, it is easy to code, easy to learn, easy to execute. It means we tend to develop the language in a very easy format. We don't need to go with the detailed portion of that language. For example, the hardware implementation, like how to register work, how to compiler work, how to interpreter work. No. Here the main focus is on coding part. How we can easily execute the program. So that is known as high level language. That is easy to learn. High level language means anything we write in English language that is human acceptable form. And the language which is in the format of 0, 1, it is known as assembly language. It is difficult to learn, and it is also known as low level language. So this is known as high level language. C++ is a high level language. And C++ is also an object oriented language. What is OOPS? It means in OOPS what our main focus is that we divide the problem into small entity known as objects and then build a solution around the objects. So our main focus is on the runtime entity that is known as the object. Our object is like a container that contains data and data members, and it is the blueprint of classes. It is a runtime entity. In fact, it stores the data and the ways to manipulate the data. That is object-oriented programming language. So let us look at the flowchart of this object-oriented programming. Here we can see there are three objects. So as I told you, object is like a data container that contains data and the function associated with it. So here there are three objects in which there is data and the function that works on it. So here we can see two things, that the the data is closely related to its function. So it is closely tied to the function. The external functions cannot access the data. So it provides secure data, it provides security, and the data is directly bound to the functions. But the functions can communicate with each other. So they can manipulate the functions, but they cannot manipulate the data. The outside functions cannot manipulate the data in which they are not bound to use. So the communication often occurs between function to function. That is the process of object-oriented programming. So what are the benefits of OOPS? As we know, data is hidden. The data is closely bound to the functions which manipulates the data. So the external functions cannot manipulate the data, cannot modify the data. So because of that, the data is hidden. Here we can say the emphasis is on data rather than procedure. The main fundamental of the OOPS concept is the data and the object. We don't care about the procedure by which it follows. Our main emphasis is on the data. Functions that operate on the data of an object are tied together, as we just seen. Objects can communicate with each other through functions. There is one thing is that we create sometimes friendly functions. That is, the function is a friend of the other class, of the other object. So objects can communicate with each other only through functions. As we know, in object-oriented programming, we divide the problem into small objects and then create solution around these objects. So because of that, it follows bottom-up approach. That is totally different to C language that follows up to bottom approach. So what are the basic concepts of OOPS that we all need to learn? The basic concepts of OOPS are objects that we just seen, that we just read, that objects are runtime entity that actually works. It is like a data container that contains the objects and the member function that works on it. Second, the most important thing that OOPS provide is the classes. We'll study about this later. Third one is data abstraction. Abstraction means hiding data. Fourth one is inheritance, means inherit the property of other object. Fifth one is polymorphism. Poly means many, morphism means form. So ability to take more than one form. Dynamic binding. Dynamic binding means the passing message will be bind together during runtime, during execution time. The last one is encapsulation. Encapsulation means the wrapping up of data and members into a single unit, like a capsule. So these are the basic concepts of OOPS and the fundamental of C++. There are four basic pillars of C++. Here we came to know, and is that data abstraction, inheritance, polymorphism, and encapsulation. We'll study these things about later, these topics about later in detail. So first, let me tell you about classes. What are classes? A class is basically a user-defined data type that contains data and functions as its members. So we all know, like integer, character, they are a data type. In the same sense, classes is also a user-defined data type that contain data and function as its members, and objects are the instance of that class. We can create multiple instances of that class. In fact, a class doesn't hold any memory. It is all about the object. An object can access the class, an object can use the class, but class cannot access the object. So simply, a class is a collection of similar objects. An object is like a container, it contains the data. A class is just a data object that contains a similar type of objects. And a class is often defined by the keyword class. We'll study this about later in detail. Next one is data abstraction. It refers to the act of representing essential features without including the background details. Classes uses the concept of abstraction. Since the class uses the concept of data abstraction, they are known as abstract data type. So what does data abstraction means actually? For example, you go to a furniture house or go to any shop to buy a refrigerator, so the seller or the shopkeeper will provide you the essential features of that refrigerator. He won't tell you about the background details like it will take 5 units of electricity, it needs CFC, chlorofluorocarbon, it will be too costly for you. No, it won't give you these details. These are background details. It will provide you essential features like you can just use that refrigerator for the next 20 years. These are some essential features like the gross weight of this refrigerator is only 100 kg. You can put 20 kg of fruits and vegetables in it. So these are the essential features of that refrigerator. Similarly, data abstraction in C++ is like providing the essential features without including the background details. And classes use the concept of abstraction. They hide the background details and provide you the essential features. So because of that, when class use the concept of data abstraction, they are known as abstract data type. And this is the most important question that often interviewer will ask you during your interview. If you are giving an interview regarding software developer in C++, what is abstract data type? So keep in mind. Next one is inheritance. What is inheritance? Inheritance, it is the process by which one object inherits the properties of the other objects. Because of that, it provides the idea of reusability. It helps in generating efficient code. So what is inheritance? Suppose there are two tables. One table is created and the other table we have to create. One table contains the name of the students along with their roll numbers, and the other table which we want to create should have the names of the students along with their age. So in that scenario, what is the best case? What we should do? Yeah, we should inherit the property, or we should inherit the table. We should point the other table which has been created, which contains the name of the student. So we don't need to write code again and again and again. We don't need to write names again and again and again. So in that table, we can inherit the property of other table. So this is known as inheritance. So because of that, we can use code again and again without having to rewrite again. So this is the concept of reusability. So it helps in generating efficient code, it reduces redundancy, and it provides efficient code. Next, what is next? Polymorphism. Poly means many, morphism means form. So polymorphism is the ability to take more than one form. It means an operation may give different results based on different parameters passed. For example, if we add two integers, suppose 2 and 3, it will give you the result 5 as an addition. On the other hand, if we add Cristiano plus Ronaldo, it will give the result Cristiano Ronaldo, but as a concatenation. So the addition, the plus sign, is the operator has been overloaded. So this gives the property of operator overloading. It provides uniqueness to our code. Sometimes we often use function overloading, same function, same name, but different parameters. So this is the concept of polymorphism. This is one of the most powerful features of C++ language, which makes your code unique. Next one is encapsulation. Encapsulation means wrapping up of data and members into a single unit. For example, as a capsule, it contains more than one form in a single unit. The wrapping up of data and functions into a single unit. What is that single unit? This single unit is known as class. The class contains functions and data and similar type of data and functions. So this is again the property of class and again the property of OOPS concepts. Because of encapsulation of data, the data is not accessible to the outside world. The data is secure. Again, it provides security, it provides closeness to the data. It ties the data closely to within the functions that the class contains. And this insulation of data from direct access by the program is called data hiding. This is known as data hiding. Data hiding doesn't mean that you have to hide the unwanted details. No, that is data abstraction. But the insulation of data from direct access by the other party, other program, is known as data hiding. This is the basic difference between these two. And this is again the question that interviewer would ask you if he wants to test your basic information. So you have to keep in mind. So what are the application of C++? Where we use C++? What are the uses of C++? In applications, some of the most powerful tools like Adobe uses the C++ language in creating some of its application like Adobe's After Effects, Adobe Illustrator, games. The most popular software developer or gaming developer application, Unity, uses the concept of C++. If you know better, you will game it. You will prepare, you will play the game better, you will create the game better. Again, animation. Blender is used for modeling and it uses the concept of C++. Web browser. Some of the most powerful web browser like Google Chrome has been created in C++. Database access. The MySQL for accessing database is often created in C++. And next up is compilers. That compiles the code is created in C++. So these are the things in which C++ is used. So you have to learn C++ in order to gain the mastery in these applications. So we'll see in the next tutorial. If you like it, please subscribe it and comment below what are the things you want to learn. Thank you.